Yeah, no, I mean, again, we knew it's going to be tough here. We knew it's a veteran group, but again, we just got to be smart in that. We still have a lot of really good players in our lineup. But again, that's not our standard. We just got to be way better. We got to buy in on our defensive effort, and that was just not the case today.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome in. You are here in our Salem 5 studios. This is Boston has entered the chat, and that, unfortunately, was a Boston Bruins loss to open up a 3-game, very difficult trip. The Golden Knights, under head coach Bruce Cassidy, we remember him, took a thriller in the Sin City, 6-5. 6-5. If only it was 6-7, right? We could do like the kids. 6-5. High-scoring game, and you see the reaction from the fans. Joe, encouraged. Love the fight, Bruins. Love it. You crawled back in the 2 losses, first against the Lightning, down 4-1. You rally, and then this time down 6-3. You rally. You fell short. Just got to be better defensively. It's all going to clean up. I added in a little commentary on my own, but then you get sad Bruins fan on the other side. Season's over, which honestly, I don't believe for 1 second. Casey Hudson, I am Adam Kaufman. Welcome in. Then Marco Sturm, the head coach of the Bruins, felt that way after a second loss of the year to drop the Bruins to 3-2.
To a tough team.
To a very tough team that obviously is expected to be better than you. Vegas is, one of those contenders coming into the year. But boy, Sturm just looked dejected after he had the season's over face. Going on.
It's because he had to copy and paste some responses from Monday afternoon.
Sure.
But before we get into anything, which side of the fence are you sitting on? Which fan are you?
Oh, I am... Can I fence sit? I certainly don't feel like the season is over. Like, that's ridiculous. I still believe this Bruins team, if it plays the way it is built to play, it is supposed to play, which is not, as you well know, we've talked about it so many times, you can't win these high-scoring games. It'll happen. I mean, it's an 80-plus game season. Like, every once in a while, you're going to win high-scoring games. But generally, more often than not, if a game is 6-5, Bruins probably aren't going to be on the right side of it. Much the same as if the Bruins score 5 goals, more often than not, they're going to win those games because they are built to thrive defensively. The offense is still a work in progress. So I can't raise her. Andrew Raycroft was on Bruins Overtime Live last night after that long game, like a 3-hour regulation game.
1-something a.m.
Sort of searching, trying to get to that moral victory place, like obviously that first tweeter. I can't quite get there. It's fun. It's fun to, if you fall down big and you rally and you find a way to make it a game again. I wasn't quitting. We were talking earlier, game 6-3 after you allow a goal early in the third. Okay, we got an early morning. Maybe we do go to bed. But then they scored 2 right away, and it's like there's 15 minutes of regulation left in this game. Yeah. I'm staying up. They could do this. They could win it. They could tie it. They could force OT. Everything was on the table, so they keep you there. What's the old thing? Like, just some walking away, like you pulled me back in. That was the Bruins these last 2 games.
Yeah, and I think, I'm still sitting on top of the fence of both of these. Actually, I'll never get to the whole season is over thing because we still have a long season ahead.
It's 5 games.
Exactly. But I could understand some of the woes here because it's like, when you're sitting there seeing them rally back into this game and battle it, as the first tweet mentioned, well, we saw that fight work in their favor versus the Chicago Blackhawks team. And what are some things that translated or that happened to this Bruins team versus the Blackhawks that actually happened in this game? Oh, the amount of 2-on-1s and rush chances and opportunities that were just coming in tidal waves. That is something that has to be cleaned up because there's still going to be plenty of fast teams out there. Oh, by the way, 2 this weekend that they're going to have to face and make sure that they make some course correction here. But you mentioned it. You got to see a little bit more out of the top 6. And you can tell that at one point Marco Sturm tried to kind of inject something different there, switching up his top 6 lines a bit at the end of the second and throughout the third period. Thank you, Scott McLaughlin, for having those details for us. But that's just to kind of try to find more energy. But I think part of finding more energy is guys not getting locked into playing too much defense. There's a lot of news still happening for this team, not just because you have a new head coach in Marco Sturm, but oh, by the way, you have a new system coming into play here. And you can see the moments where they kind of get a little scattered and a little behind, or a little indecisive, one should better say, with trying to make certain plays happen or make certain coverages happen, to not be chasing the game or to not be constantly put on their heels with 2-on-1 opportunities. And when they put up a great fight versus the Capitals and made sure to secure a season open W, they did that because they had so much command in the neutral zone, something that just kind of looked like it was getting away from them. I mean, Vegas did really good at jamming them up in the neutral zone, which caused so much panic for this Bruins team. And with that panic came passes that lacked intention, came a lot of turnovers, and just brutal turnovers at that. So I'm going to hang on the fence, but I'm nowhere close to the season is over. I'm very much in the park of, like, it's still a new team.
Yeah.
It's still a new system. It originally wasn't typically a game on their chart to win realistically. So to even be able to put up 5 goals, like, good things to work off of, but like, stop making the same mistakes that you have through 5 games.
I was just looking around the desk and I don't have any pom-poms, but if I were to rah-rah this situation, the Bruins did again score 5 goals, which in this very young year is a season high for them.
Right.
You know, so David Pastrnak, who is this team's perennial leading scorer, is at least encouraged by a 5-goal outburst.
Is there some optimism in that you are scoring goals?
Yeah, honestly, to be honest, you know, if my line, you know, the top 6, you know, today we're, you know, have a good game. We had a big chance to win, you know. We got the scoring, you know. Unfortunately, you know, we have to own it. The top 6, we weren't there today. We weren't, you know, didn't create enough. Didn't, you know, get on the score sheet. So that's, you know, a good job by, you know, guys. From, you know, bottom lineup, they played amazing. They kept us in the game pretty much, you know, but we have to be better. You know, the top 2 lines, we're getting a lot of ice time there, and we have to create more 5-on-5.
One of the great tactical things about the game of hockey, and I mean, it's true of every sport in its own way, but what I really enjoy about hockey are these in-game line changes and adjustments. And all right, this combo isn't working. Let's mix up this trio. This guy, he drops, you know, he climbs from the second line to the first. He drops from the first line to the second, whatever it is. And they did, and you were just highlighting it, the Bruins did see a little bit more production, obviously, in terms of their depth scoring, that fourth line in particular. And so I don't know what Marco Sturm has up his sleeve going into this next game against Colorado, but in terms of adjustments to just try and find something that works, that doesn't kill you defensively at the same time, what would you like to see?
Honestly, we saw some good push when the lines got changed up there. At the end of Pasta talking, he kind of touched very briefly on, like, doing better with 5-on-5. And, like, there was a breakdown yesterday on Twitter just kind of mentioning the fact that, like, look, their high danger chances with 5-on-5 are kind of bottom of the barrel in the league. That's something that they have to get better at because you've got the talent. Elias Lindholm has been a maniac in terms of making scoring chances happen and trying to get into those dirty areas. And we saw it pay out for him in the first 2-3 games of the season, and hasn't been able to translate, but you need that other counterpart with your line mates. So what I'd like to see is just kind of like that ability to step up on 5-on-5, because you don't, and you're not positioned to be that team to rely on special team pushes and special team play, because actually that hurt them. The amount of shorthanded chances that came about when they were on the penalty kill, even though the penalty kill is fantastic, they almost let up a number of goals. And oh, by the way, Wild Bill does cash in on a shorthanded goal. So this is the time of the year to try to blend up these lines and see what's going to work. Zacha jumps onto the top line with Lindholm and Pasta for a totality of 5 minutes and 37 seconds. 2 scoring chances generate from this, and they don't allow any goals, which is great because that defensive ability in this new system, there has to be a balance there. Every guy is going to be required to have more of a two-way ability and element to their game to make sure that this new system can shine. So I like the idea of that. Zacha has been lights out defensively. He's so fun to watch when he comes up with these big moments. And then jumps to the new second line that got into the mix there. Geekie bumps down with Middlestat and Arvidsson for 2 minutes and 42 minutes of ice time. 2 scoring chances. Again, no goals allowed, even though scoring chances were coming against them. I like this because you don't look at Morgan Geekie and think, oh, defensive qualities, but what has been said about him time in and time out, regardless of Seattle when he first got here and now with his new role being a leader, he's got a great hockey IQ. I also know it from covering his brother down in Tampa. They have the ability to kind of have a read or anticipate their opponent to make defensive plays and capabilities, so he can help out a Middlestat where some turnovers are unfortunately coming about. And Arvidsson, I think, has been pretty tremendous in growth. So if they do stick with this, you can see why, because you need somebody who's going to make sure that they're on the cleanup to open up the offensive players to have their chances to shine. Pasta being a physical wrecking ball, is it fun to see Kevin wreak havoc? Absolutely. Not particularly his job. Kevin needs to be opened up a bit more so that he can continue to shine when it comes to the scoring. And oh, by the way, the shots on goal, don't you have that as like a futuristic thing
what,
already?
he had 4, I think?
He had 4, yeah. So his relentlessness is what you need, and he's the one who finds those pockets for guys in front of the net so that they can be a high-danger team and step up on 5-on-5. So that's only if the line shuffles carry over. If not, it's just your top line's got to be your top line. Third and fourth line, their identity is to come to the rescue, is to be that physical presence, is to be the solidifier when it comes to forechecking, which just kind of kept coming and going in waves yesterday. But they have been the saviors. The fourth line has been tremendous. Third line, Tanner Jeannot with another cleanup goal. So the potential is there, one would say. One would very much argue from a morale high and someone who slept 3 hours because I wanted to support this team at all costs with 0 caffeine today. It's nothing to freak out about. But when he says not our standard, we saw great structure and standard in Game 1 and Game 2 of the season. They need to just find a way to get back to that, and it might require some changes.
Two of us, I think, were, maybe anomalies in that we were up for that whole game and then up early to be here. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there watching that maybe didn't stay up for the entirety anyway of a 10 o'clock puck drop. And by the way, you're forgiven. I'm a little jealous of the sleep that you had last night. But I think there are people that, regular viewers of this show that heard me this week ranting about, Jeremy Swayman should have started against the Lightning.
Yes.
And that was a winnable game. And maybe if you had him and not Korpisalo, blah, 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 as I went on and on. But these people may also be looking, waking up this morning, looking at the box score, see that Jeremy Swayman gave up 6 goals last night against Vegas and say, good call, Kaufman. Yeah, that's your guy. He really got it done. But let me ask you, as someone who obviously watched this game, is the box score misleading at all?
It is misleading. It's tremendously misleading because remember those rush chances that I mentioned that Vegas just kept coming up with time and time again? Like, that's going to put your goalie in a dangerous position. So in a number of ways, like Korpisalo versus Tampa on Monday, not put in the best position to make sure that they hold off this team or make sure that they keep those goals out of here. You have 11 high danger shots that came against Swayman last night, which hence 5 of those 11 ended up in the goal. So then on top of that, 14 mid-range shots, 1 of those end up landing in the goal, and then it just continues to go on from there. So the shots were very much coming off consistently to the point where, he didn't even have a chance to reset in a sense.
No bad goals, basically.
Basically. So, it can't be one of those things where you look at the metrics or you look at the numbers and you're like, oh, here goes Swayman. He really tried to do everything he can. He kept them in moments that were pretty tough, especially because, oh my gosh, the 5-on-3, I was dying. And Swayman came up big, but also so did the Boston Bruins. So I don't think this is a measure of Swayman. I think it is just more so some cleanup has to happen defensively, and again, some grace. A hybrid system is very hard. I mean, I remember interviewing players in Tampa when they made that change, and it was just you have very skilled players that didn't feel like they could live up to it. Blown coverages happen a lot in hybrid systems until you get more confident with what's taking place. And Brick has mentioned it a number of times on Hockey Hub. Man-on-man coverage sucks. So he can get into the nitty-gritty about what that means exactly, but it is a tall feat, and you're looking at guys trying to make these adjustments while also living up to the expectation that is now risen because of a good start. Game 1, Game 2, Game 3. So the fight is there. That's probably a big basis here, and they're going to need that fight versus Colorado and Utah.
Let's go there. We knew this trip was going to be difficult. It does not get easier in this next game as we sit here tomorrow night, obviously, at Colorado. You see it there, followed by Utah, then back home with Brad Marchand's first trip back to Boston. That'll be interesting to talk about. But this Colorado team, 4-0-1, coming off a 4-1 win last night at Columbus, leads the NHL, Kasey, with 9 points. Similar offensive team, not in terms of talent, but in terms of output so far in the young year, to the Bruins. They're both basically top 10 in that vicinity anyway in terms of goals per game. Special teams, I know we want to emphasize 5-on-5 play, but special teams actually could be potentially one of those difference makers here because neither team has a particularly good power play. NHL's worst power play, as a matter of fact, for Colorado so far, at about 15%. Middle of the pack in terms of the penalty kill. That's been a strength early on for the Bruins. I know not as much last night, but generally speaking, the PK has been a strength. It's one step closer to perhaps, we haven't even mentioned his name, getting Hampus Lindholm back in the lineup. Maybe that ends up happening, which would be such a relief for this team defensively in so many different ways, so that you're not leaving, Charlie McAvoy out to play 27 minutes, for instance. You gotta find a way to get some more reliable guys out there to ease the load. And so, all that said, can the Bruins bounce back here in Colorado?
I'm going to use this as another measuring test for one. And even though you emphasize like the ability to kind of have an edge when it comes to special teams, if it goes to that play, I thought it was going to be an edge yesterday because Vegas Golden Knights penalty kills, it's at a 66.7. They're not that great, yet they only got one power play goal into the mix. I want this to stay at 5-on-5 because they're going to go up against two elite skaters by the name of Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar. And I mentioned the fact that there were some turnovers that impacted them, but you went against two guys that are really good with takeaways in Mark Stone and Mitch Marner. Well, Cale Makar was second in the NHL when it comes to takeaways. So you're going to have that pressure where they're going to make you try to chase the game, not only because of their speed and their elite skating, but their ability to take away the puck and play keep away as much as possible. So this is one of those things where when Marco Sturm says get back to their standard, this is it. This does not need to be a high-scoring affair by any means. This is where you need to see the DNA of a team that's hard to play against. And if we see Swayman again, which hopefully one would, this is where you need to play better in front of him. This is where you need to make sure that you take away the neutral zone, something you did so well versus the Capitals, and then just be disciplined with penalty kills and not be messy with the puck. No panic play. Whenever they started to settle back in, you saw a good Bruins team. But when that panic came into play and you throw away a play because you're making a pass to somebody that doesn't exist or whatever the miscue happens to be there, or people that can't hold the line. I mean, there's a number of times where the power play looked like it was about to be set up for something beautiful, and then the line was broken because the puck ends up getting out of the zone, and now you're re-chasing it and losing seconds off the clock. So the margin of cleanup, it doesn't feel that tremendous in my book. So that's why I think Colorado is a good measuring test, because you have some similarities to what went wrong versus Vegas, that you did well versus the Blackhawks, but now you're talking about a team that's very much at the top and going to make you pay for everything and then some, and keep you off the board likely if any mistakes are made.
I know you don't want to give me a score prediction.
I hate
so
score
I will ask you
predictions.
this. Since I feel like you're already kind of telling me you think Colorado's going to win, I'll just ask it this way. High-scoring game again, or the Bruins clamp down defensively?
It's just tough because you've got a playmaker in McKinnon, and you've got a team that can push in the third period. I could see a 4-2 situation.
I was just going to say that exact number.
Yeah, I was going to say, unfortunately, I can see a 4-2, but if it goes to the whole spiel that I just gave, 3-1.
Okay.
No, 3-2.
3-2.
Yeah, I think Casey Middlesack going
Could
against
just
his
be the
old
difference
team.
of an empty netter, right?
Right, exactly. I'm gonna say 3-2. I would love if it's the Bruins, but likely might be the Avalanche.
I just need to see some more still out of Korpisalo, basically, to be as confident, as erratically confident going into his starts as I generally am going into Jeremy Swayman's starts.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Swayman in the mix here, but
yeah, he's not going to play.
well, it seems like they keep going back and forth.
Yeah,
so.
it's alternate.
I don't know. Let us know what you guys
Back and
think.
forth,
What's
back
on the
and
road
forth.
ahead?
Yeah, that's right. Well, Bruins will play Saturday. The Patriots have maybe the Titans Super Bowl on Sunday in Nashville. Should be a lot of fun. We're going to get into Mike Vrabel's return to Tennessee.
Well, they're not going to cancel the rest of the season, and that's not really our focus right now. But I would say that we've done, we put ourselves in a position to play meaningful games. Not that they aren't all meaningful, but certainly focusing on this one on the road, our last one of 3 here. But and I appreciate us not looking too far ahead. You know, they just attacked Buffalo, and they figured out what we needed to do against the Saints, and then we got back and got things, cleaned up and tried to get some rest. And now, focusing on Tennessee and the challenge that presents, and seeing if we can't continue to enhance the things that we do well and improve the things that we're not doing well, and then eliminate the stuff that could or will or has gotten us beat.
All right, let's play some meaningful games, and I think we're all bought in for Braves. Welcome back live to the Salem 5 studio here into Boston. It has entered the chat. There's a lot of excitement in a sense of what can the revenge narrative actually carve out to be in this Patriots
How ugly
versus
can
Titans.
this get?
Exactly. I think we're all in for some mess as the Patriots go marching into Nashville, and I know that sounds better versus the Saints, but we didn't get there. I missed my moment. Regardless, There's so many different things airing out here outside of the Vrabel narrative, which we'll tap into a little bit further. But it's also the fact that we've got a Drake May that is in the MVP conversation. Very much so, not biased at all. And we've talked about it here on Boston Has Entered the Chat. Like, these next couple of games, these next winnable games, by all means,
should win these
could
games.
continue to propel him into that conversation and help him either tie or climb up the charts when it comes to the top passing leaders. He's only right behind Baker Mayfield, not by too much stride. So,
who would to me be the MVP right now?
Yeah, you made it. I think that's a favorable case, hands down. But how much of this nonchalant, like it's just another game, we're just going to go in there and improve, is like cigar talk? Like, come on, buddy. Tell us what's really going on when you get to the poker table with your buddies and you know you're going into Nashville. And this team, after they fired you, well, they kind of tried to make you look like the bad guy, in my personal opinion. And then you get to come here and be a phoenix, rise from the ashes, a brand new-ish Mike Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel coached Tennessee from 2018 to 2023, took them to multiple playoff trips, an AFC championship game. This team had 54 regular season wins under his watch, third most in Tennessee history. And unfortunately for him, for everyone involved, famously had a months-long stretch at the end of not getting along with an absentee owner, as she's been referred to, as Amy Adams Strunk, who has still not spoken with the media since firing his replacement, Brian Callahan. There's an interim head coach there in Mike McCoy, the former San Diego Chargers head coach. That's how far back you got to go, since obviously he has been a head coach, being risen from the senior offensive assistant. If you gave Mike Vrabel truth serum, and I don't know what is being said there, obviously,
that's why I say cigar
in
talk.
that locker room, so many of the coaching staff, so many members of this staff that are on, in Foxborough were with him in Tennessee. They, even if it's not coming from Vrabel specifically in that locker room, I promise you, it is being filtered down, the importance of this game in not the same way, but a similar way to how, like, we've talked about it. Steph Diggs wanted to, really take it to Buffalo in prime time against his old team, against Josh Allen, a guy that, he, at least according to rumors, wasn't really getting along with there at the end. He wanted out. Maybe Allen wasn't so unhappy that Diggs was out. And so, he wanted to show something. Hey, I still got it, and I'm going to take you guys down in the process. And that's a good Buffalo team. Yeah. That's a team that's, right there in the mix in Super Bowl conversation. This Tennessee team is trash, Kasey. It's 1-5. It lacks leadership. It doesn't have a good, even interim head coach. It's poor defensively. The offense, there are issues along the offensive line. The Patriots should dog walk this team. It should not be even close on Sunday. And I think if Vrabel, again, was given, hooked up to the lie detector, given that truth serum, whatever, he would tell you exactly that he wants to go into Tennessee and eviscerate this team. He has no love lost for that team, for that organization, for that ownership. I'm sure he still loves, some of the guys that he once coached there, because it was only a couple of years ago. Some people there that are in the building that he knew, that he, still holds in high regard. But at the top,
might be friends
not the case. Yeah. And, I think Vrabel said as much recently this week when he was asked, what he did after he was fired in 2023 with all that Titans garb swag that
all
he had.
Merch?
He said, well, the
up in flames or no?
Goodwill in Nashville got a good haul. Okay. So, Vrabel, he may not say it, but he certainly sneaks in little references to let you know exactly how he feels. And I expect that. Never mind my mansion on Narrative Street saying, of course Vrabel's going to, again, just tantalize the Titans this weekend to give you alliteration. It's more that these two teams are just not on the same playing field. And when they are quite literally on the same playing field, that is going to show.
Yeah, Vrabes proves to be better than all of us yet again, because some of that merch may have gone up in flames. I don't know. I'm not speaking for everyone. I'm just speaking for some people in particular. Let's talk about this dog walkable defense, because I already kind of teased the fact that all of us are very much on board with the Drake May MVP train. Well, me and Travis talked about it a couple days ago. Hey, this is a good position. This is a good game. This is a good time and Sunday to add another 220 plus to Drake May's resume.
Sure.
And, keep it fantastic.
Pretty modest. I mean, Joe Flacco threw for 7 million yards last night.
That's true. After you see those shoulders go to work, Drake May, you actually need to put up 400 passing yards this Sunday. Thank you so much, sir. And who's going to help with that? Stephon Diggs. And he has great numbers versus Tennessee throughout his career. More importantly, when Tennessee actually had one of those defenses that you kind of got a little shaky about because you knew they were going to make things difficult for you, then he still had himself a heyday. Found the end zone 4 times after only seeing the Tennessee Titans 4 times in his career. Limited in practice, a little bit of a chest issue from what I read, but is this a game where we can see Drake May just continue to progress with his confidence, the way that he steps up in the pocket, the way that he makes those timely deep throws and passes, whether it's Diggs or anywhere else in company that helped them survive out of the Saints? Or is this an upright position to kind of get better with a balanced attack? Because you mentioned it, dog walkable all around from the secondary to up front on the line. The only wrecking ball they have is Jeffrey Simmons, but there's still enough gaps in those teeth to make sure that a run game can come to life, and we have been begging for it for weeks now. Weeks to see the run game go to town.
There's just no reason that everything that you're saying shouldn't come to fruition. Because, again, the matchup. And we can go on and on about this Drake May MVP love and whether or not he justifiably is in the conversation, the odds movement, and you can look at even the trends. This is now 5 straight games of 200-plus passing yards and a 100-plus QB rating. He's only the 4th guy to do that behind Patrick Mahomes, Dan Marino, who hold the record each with 7, and then Dak Prescott. So not all players are obviously created equally. Although Dak is having a good season, in fairness, but Drake May,
way to add that one in,
he
though.
can make it 6 here this weekend against it's a defense that it's a woeful secondary that May absolutely should have some big gains to, whether that's to Diggs, to Booty, to Douglas, to maybe find some of that lost yardage that was stripped away from him in New Orleans against the Saints by
We'd love that.
poorly officiated penalties that were called against New England, but they bring no pressure. It's a pretty mediocre pass rush there for Tennessee, and so Drake May, whether it's with the arm and the creativity and the athleticism and all the things that you mentioned, or just, again, his mobility and scrambling and ability to run. I don't want to see him out there as the team's leading rusher again. Like, that's kind of getting old for me.
Okay.
I want him to see, I want him at 30 to 50 rushing yards in a game on a regular basis. That's awesome. I just want your leading running backs, your true running backs, to be more than that. And so far, that's been disappointing, as we know. But this is a vulnerable, it's not atrocious, but it's a vulnerable run defense on the other side that does feel like kind of a get-right spot for Ramondre Stevenson, maybe more so an awakening and a rival in the NFL in regular season games anyway for Travion Henderson. I want to see that play out. But, yeah, the fact that you can bet this game at the Patriots winning by a touchdown. 6.5 is still out there. It's a rogue 6.5. 7 in most places. There are some 7.5s as well. I mean, I guess if you believe in Tennessee, and I don't, go get that 7.5. You get the protection outside the touchdown there by that hook. But no, I'd lay it. I would lay the 7. I'd alternate it to. I'd take it up to 9.5 to 13.5.
I love a good alt play.
Get frisky, take it up to 20.5. I think the Patriots are going to absolutely destroy Tennessee because I think this game is just that important to Mike Vrabel and company.
Big time. And I'm right there with you. And then you mentioned kind of some betting, of course, so we wouldn't do right by Travis Thomas if we didn't mention where our pockets could preach.
Sure.
Honestly, from everything you said, what are we looking at in terms of like over 234.5 passing yards for Drake May? This has got to be a cakewalk, yeah?
I don't know about cakewalk. I mean, I think the matchup would tell you, again, all the defensive issues for Tennessee that May absolutely could get there. I mean, dude could have 170 yards in the first half for all we know. What I do wonder, to kind of go back to what I said before, is if this game is as ugly as I think it'll be and gets really, really lopsided, even as early as, let's say, mid-third quarter, how much do the Patriots just decide to kind of, not exclusively,
run the
but
clock?
Yeah, punt on the pass, run the clock. It's more yardage, obviously, for Henderson, for Stevenson, for whoever it is, and then May falls just under that line because, again, he just doesn't have to pass anymore.
Okay, so I actually like that. We'll steer clear of the passing yard props because all I need is 200 from you, Drake, and it's because I want you to continue to stay in the MVP conversation. I've got nothing cooking because we know where my money goes. Fridge, closet. But in the honor of our friendship, Adam Kaufman, I do have one to bring to you.
Okay.
That's going to be a first half bet.
First half bet.
First half.
Okay.
Stephon Diggs finds the end zone for plus 370.
You are what? plus 370.
Ask Adam how many times he had to ask me
What
this
are
question
the
when we used to work
what
together.
What are the anytime odds for full game?
I didn't look at them because
I mean,
this
you're
is fun
obviously
for
you're
me.
getting more value there in the opening
Exactly.
half. That's
juice.
I thought he was going to find the end zone last week. It didn't happen. So maybe
You mentioned getting
maybe
some
this
moments
is the
back
week.
from
Yeah.
last week.
I like it.
mentioned 4 games, 4 touchdowns.
I like Diggs to find the end zone. I don't know about in the first half. You're limiting yourself a little. It's like
you just said that you could see this being kind of a punch out in the first half.
True.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if they go out, and the Patriots offense has obviously been way more alive than it has in recent seasons. If they go out and they've got 21-28 first half points, I could see Diggs being part of that without question. I will support your bet. I don't know if I'll tail it, but I support it.
You don't sound that confident in it. But you know what? Doesn't matter. His lack of confidence, because this is something that I did all the time. And then I'd get text messages from him and Sheraban saying how close, but no cigar, that happened to be. I don't know. Let us know your thoughts. Anything that makes your pocket preach at 617-790-0928. Is it going to be a magnificent blowout and statement win for Mike Vrabel and company? Because we want to continue to see this team wear their crowns for the AFC East and maybe the AFC as a whole. We dive deeper into the Patriots taking on the Titans on the other side of this quick break, so don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on Boston Has Entered the Chat.
Mike, I know you said on Monday some things are important and other things are interesting.
You like that, huh?
See, I did actually. Do you also talk to the players about that sort of thing, knowing that they could get amped up for you specifically to try to win this game in Tennessee?
Yeah, we're not trying to win one for the Gipper here. We're just trying to make sure that these guys are focused on improving. And I think that they are. I think they're locked in. And hopefully, we can get them as prepared as we possibly can between now and Sunday.
All right, that is Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel, formerly the Titans head coach, and a very successful one for the years that he was in Tennessee. We head to Nashville and we bring in our pal Chase McCabe, host of the Chase and Big Joe show on 102.5 The Game in Nashville. Chase, listen, first, welcome, but as we hear, wake it up early with us. We appreciate you. If I were listening in that room to Mike Vrabel, I'm basically the Ron Burgundy, Will Ferrell meme with the cigarette. Is this game important to you, Mike? No, we're not going to win one for the Gipper. I don't believe you. That's me with the fake cigarette. How important, how personal is this to Vrabel in your estimation as someone that covered him for years there in Tennessee?
Well, thanks for having me. It's so personal that remember that 59-0 game between the Patriots and the Titans about 10, 15 years ago? I think it could be something like that. I mean, he's not going to say that, but I think he wants to just come in here and absolutely destroy the Titans. I think send a message to Titans owner Amy Adams-Strunk of, hey, look at me, you just fired your coach that was supposed to be better than I am, and I just came in here and gave you one. So I think there's a little animosity there, but you played that soundbite, and I'm just laughing. I miss Vrabel. Oh, man, do I miss that.
He's one of the best, and I just love how straight edge and direct he is on things. And so now that you've mentioned basically the fact that this is important, this means something with your time covering him, what is the atmosphere like in Tennessee? Because I feel like everyone tried to do the best job possible to make it a very nonchalant situation. Yeah, we parted ways with Vrabel, but I feel like there was a little tainting to his name, or attempted tainting to his name, and this makes it even more of a statement to put up some big numbers on Sunday.
How much time do we have?
I mean, how long do you want to stick around?
Yeah, I know, right? Look, the things aren't good here right now. I mean, they just fired the coach less than 2 years into his tenure. The owner is an absentee owner who hides when things are bad, and she's hired someone to speak for them for football that I don't think is necessarily qualified for it. And so things aren't good. The fans are restless. The fans are tired of losing. They want to see this football team have the success that they did under Mike Vrabel. And you can say what you want about him. I mean, he could get prickly towards the end, but you guys had Belichick, so I don't think that's anything new. And there is a lot of that there, even though Mike doesn't want to admit that. There is a lot of Belichick in him, but fans are just tired of losing. They're tired of firing people. I mean, she has fired 2 GMs, 2 head coaches or 3 GMs. I mean, I've lost count. And so I think they're tired of that and ready to find stability like they had when John Robinson and Mike Vrabel were here.
I just think the timing of this is fascinating. You know, obviously the Patriots are playing well. The Titans are in the toilet, as we know, 1-5, 4-19 since Vrabel's dismissal. But the thing that I guess I'm wondering if you have any intel into, I know, like you said, the owner's not talking, but was this firing at all strategic, timing-wise, in it happening before Vrabel comes in versus, oh, maybe it's a different opponent this week. He coaches one more game, goes poorly, then he's out, versus, like, you can't fire Callahan, Vrabel's replacement, after getting whooped by Vrabel and the Patriots, right? You have to do it before.
Yeah, no, and I do think there was strategy there. What the reports were that, and I was actually in Las Vegas for the game, and so going, watching that game and just how terrible it was, and then going into the locker room and the press conferences after the game, you could just feel defeat. There was no passion. The players were just like, what are we doing? Jeffrey Simmons was talking about how they had a terrible week of practice, which that's an indictment on the coach. If a player's saying that. And then, Brian Callahan, you could tell he's like, I don't know what to do. I don't have the answers. And so we left that day kind of thinking it could happen, because I said, you either have to do it now or you have to wait until the bye. But if you do it after New England, it's going to be the same thing that happened when she fired John Robinson, which was 2 days after A.J. Brown, who he traded, came in and just absolutely torched the Titans. So it's all about optics. And I think going ahead and making the move the week before, yes, people are going to talk about it of the timing, but I think it was the right move, because then you're not looking reactive to what is probably going to happen on Sunday.
That's a great point in terms of being reactive. Obviously, mess is a key ingredient for low morale, but it hasn't been that much time since the firing. But are you feeling a little bit of a different wave of, like, maybe these players can re-buy in? Because you've got a face of the franchise in Cam Ward. I mean, I know I was excited for him and what his potential could be in the NFL, but what's been hard over the past couple of years is seeing these young quarterbacks being put in positions where they have to carry an entire team, which just cuts into their developments for them to properly take that next step in the NFL. What have you seen out of Cam Ward, and potentially a hindrance to his development, or just the fact that now he has an opportunity to finally take a proper step forward?
Yeah, I think time's going to tell on that. But I mean, there have been some things I've liked, and then there have been some things that concern me when it comes to Cam Ward's development. And ultimately, I believe that's what led to the decision to fire Brian Callahan, because they, Chad Brinker, Mike Borgonzi, Amy Adams-Strunk, the collective, probably felt that Cam was not developing at the rate that he should. And so they ultimately made that move. Cam is a very, laid back, like he was asked about the change, and he's like, yeah, I hate it for Cali, but not a whole lot changes for me in my preparation. And he's like, I've been through, Incarnate Word and changing coaches in Washington State and Miami and now here. So it's something he's used to. But now the key is going to be if Mike McCoy is a true candidate for the full-time job, he's going to have to show that Cam Ward is showing massive improvement between now and the end of the season, or he won't even be considered, because everything revolves around how much can you develop Cam Ward. I said that going into the season. When Brian Callahan's seat was hot, I said, look, if you can win 3 games, but if Cam Ward's getting better, he's going to keep the job. Obviously, Cam Ward was going in the wrong direction, and they made the change.
I know you made mention of, like, could this be a 59-0 kind of Patriots win? And that's obviously one end of the spectrum here. But I just think that, people want to feed into the new coach bump, right? And the extra energy, motivation, and guys on the field worried about their jobs and all of these things, where I just don't think that necessarily applies here is, one, I just think the Vrabel narrative cancels things out. Yeah. And also on the other side, whereas I know we saw not too long ago Antonio Pierce leading the Raiders over the Chiefs, that doesn't happen here, because where's the leadership for the Titans? Yeah. I mean, truly, Mike McCoy was so forgettable as San Diego's head coach. There's a reason he was the senior offensive assistant here with the Titans before getting this promotion. And also, Cam Ward, and this is not an indictment on him fully. He's a rookie. I mean, gone are the days of a guy like Patrick Mahomes sitting a year behind Alex Smith. You're just thrust in as a rookie these days. But, Cam Ward he's been very vocal in the media and not always saying the smartest things. With a lack of offensive line in front of him, taking more sacks than anybody in the NFL, meanwhile calling everybody, staff, teammates, everyone but on this team, basically. It's a bad situation for Tennessee. I just think the Patriots are hitting them at exactly the right time.
Yeah, there were some T-shirts made off of that quote, so there was definitely some of that. You're right, though. I mean, the Patriots are coming in here at the right time for them because you got a team that really, you ask about leadership, Jeffrey Simmons is the one that really stands out. And I mean, he's been a guy that, has had his times where, he's trying to fight in practice or whatever, but I think he's grown. I think he is really developed and matured. And he's the one that told us, like, hey, we came out flat in practice and then we came out flat in the game, and we can't do that. And there was a report that he was getting on J.C. Latham about having a bad practice. And so, but that's it. That's your leadership. And that's a guy that was developed under Mike Vrabel. And there's a lot of Mike Vrabel in Jeffrey Simmons. But then everybody else is either young or just not that leadership quality type player. I like Mike McCoy. Seemed like a very nice guy. But, I heard the press conference. It was like, this guy has no chance of getting the job full time. And if he does, it's just continues to be an indictment of ownership and the bad decisions that they make here with the Tennessee Titans. So, I just think that you got a more developed quarterback right now. You got a better head coach. That team in general with the Patriots is well coached, and they're going to have the upper hand on Sunday.
Yeah, you love having vocal players, but you don't technically want them to be wearing the coach's hat because the coach is incapable of coaching. That's going to really cause some mess. And plus, players don't always respond to that. But you mentioned Simmons, and I kind of mentioned that he's probably the one guy who could be a one-man wrecking crew to make this more interesting than it's anticipated to be. If it's not a 59-0 situation, what do you foresee in this matchup? Because sometimes desperate teams can pull out surprises, and they can also be very dangerous when need be.
Well, I will say we used to joke around here that there was the Vrabel special, and that was they'd win the game they weren't supposed to win and then turn around and lose the game they weren't supposed to lose. So, I mean, that's obviously in play. I don't think it's going to happen here this weekend. But, look, I mean, you mentioned the interim coach bump and like, hey, we got to rally around him. And, Simmons and Cam Ward and Tony Pollard and others, Peter Skoronski, trying to just rally the troops around Mike McCoy. But I just don't think this team is good enough. That's the problem. Like in those situations, like, yes, you fired the coach because you're not winning, but typically there are better players. This roster is terrible. It just is. They, and no offense to the guys playing, but they just don't have the horses. And I think New England is a Super Bowl caliber team? No, not yet, but they have the pieces that are building towards that. Drake May is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. And Josh McDaniels may not be much of a head coach, but he's a heck of an offensive coordinator. We saw all those years with Brady and what he's done, and I think he's done a really good job with Drake May. So I think it's going to be really hard to combat that if you're Tennessee with Vrabel and company coming in Sunday.
Chase, last one for you. Mike Vrabel, as a player for the Patriots and obviously a Super Bowl winner, a renowned, practical joker, prankster, all of this stuff. And as a coach, we've seen some of that mentality bleed over a little bit when games are personal. When he's come back to New England, some of the different things that he did against Bill Belichick, against Tom Brady. What do we see on the flip side here? I mean, how deep into the playbook is he going to truly embarrass the Titans and in particular ownership this weekend?
Oh, I think he's going to pull out all the stops and look, yeah, he's a smart butt is the best way to put it. And I like that. I used to laugh. I mean, there were times where I'd get mad and be like, Mike, just answer the question. But, there'd be other times where I'd laugh because I knew that that was him. That's his personality. I think you're going to see them do anything they can to embarrass the Tennessee Titans. And in the post-game press conference, you're probably going to hear the word collaboration because that was the buzzword that they threw out there when they fired Robinson. They brought in Rand Carthon, tried to force him to work with Vrabel, and Vrabel wanted Ryan Cowden, who's now in New England. to be the guy. So I'm sure there's going to be some sort of quip of collaboration or something after the game. But, barring any kind of miracle, I look for Vrabel to just throw everything he's got and embarrassing his former owner and his former team.
Chase McCabe from 102.5 The Game in Nashville covers the Titans, does a great job doing so there. Chase, thank you so much for getting up early and joining us here. Thanks
for having me.
Absolutely. All right, we are going to step aside when we come on back. There are other things going on in the world of sports, guys. How about baseball playoffs? I know the Red Sox aren't still involved, but there are 4 teams in action. And oh, by the way, Week 7 in the NFL is already underway. The Senior Citizen Bowl played out in entertaining fashion. We'll be back on Boston Has Entered the Chat.
We are back at it live from the Salem 5 studio here for Boston Has Entered the Chat. And it's time to get into what's trending in the world of sports. Adam did a bit of a rude teaser here. He mentioned a Senior Bowl, and I'm not going to play into that narrative. Why?
I almost said AARP Bowl.
Well, because no. I'm not going to play into this because karma's going to have my knees in my back doing wicked things over the weekend. But I will tell you this. Flacco gets his first win with the Bengals. I mean, the dude flew high, 342 passing yards, 3 tutties, and a clean sheet when it comes to interceptions, which you love to see out of a guy you're making fun of his back, his knees, and maybe his rotator cuffs, considering that he's getting the call in. But outside of Flacco coming in hot, you had the funniest tweets during this game.
Well, honestly, unintentionally, because
you were really just sharing all of your thoughts and emotions.
Well, that's true. I had to. Sometimes you just got to tweet through it, obviously. But I wish. So it was really just a typo that I put. Oh my God, Joe Burrow has targeted Jamar Chase 36 times or whatever it is the last 2 weeks. And of course, everybody gets, into my, it's like Joe, right? Flacco Burrow. But I tweet Joe Burrow because typically, obviously, it's Cincinnati. But all these people then get in my mentions like, guy, it's Joe Flacco. And it just kind of hits me. You know what? I couldn't tell the difference. Joe Flacco was playing out of his mind. 31 of 47. 342 yards, the 3 touchdowns. Again, there is nobody on planet Earth that is happier right now than Jamar Chase, who was targeted last night 23 times. 23 times. He had 16 catches, 161 yards. He had a touchdown. T. Higgins, 8, almost had a century mark. Mm-hmm. Chase Brown went crazy, over 100 yards from scrimmage, but hell, just rushing yards. It's not like the offense was poor on the other side. You saw guys, Pat Freiermuth showed out. He had a 68-yard touchdown. Jaylen Warren was awesome, predictably so. Aaron Rodgers, he was good. It's just, you have 2 guys, a combined 81 years of age, going against 2 very poor defenses, and they show it out in prime time. It's so irregular that we even get games like this, games that are this high scoring.
In this NFL.
In these Thursday night games. Yeah. And so that was reassuring just as entertainment purposes. But the biggest thing to come out of this, and this is the thing that I've been harping on for weeks, Jake Browning sucked. All right, he had 8 interceptions in not even 4 complete games. They had to make a change, which is why they go out, they acquire Joe Flacco in division from Cleveland. Before the dude even walks through the door, they say, hey, Joe, welcome to the team. By the way, you're starting this weekend against Green Bay. They almost pulled it off against the Packers. it really, I know the score by the end looked a little lopsided, but They were in that thing in the 4th quarter. They go out as 6.5-point dogs against Pittsburgh at home. You win outright. And just the NFL this year has been so compelling.
Head on a swivel.
Injuries have a lot to do with it, obviously, including the aforementioned Joe Burrow. Mm-hmm. But you look at the AFC standings as they exist right now, and we have so much season left. But Indianapolis, the Danny Dimes-led Indianapolis Colts are your number 1 seed. Chargers, Steelers, who still lead the division for now, the AFC North. I think that's going to end, by the way. I expect Baltimore or Cincy to make a run. Burrow is going to come back at some point. The Patriots are the 4 seed because obviously they're first in their division. But Buffalo, Jacksonville, Denver, at the moment, and I stress at the moment, Kansas City, Houston, Baltimore, teams like that are not even in the dance. They're just in the hunt, trying to get themselves into the mix. And so you have good functional quarterback play in Cincinnati, and you don't offensively turn the ball over, you can make a run. You can be a playoff team. And Joe Flacco, who would have guessed, could be the guy to hold over until Burrow gets back.
Well, hopefully we don't see too many more Senior Bowls because obviously we're all about Team Drake May over here. But you talked about dancing and a team that started to get back into the dance after they kind of looked dead in the water. A brand new series for the Blue Jays as they even the ALCS. And let's just mention the fact that they don't just come in any sort of like quick pinch in fashion. No, they load up and unleash to make sure that they're going to make a statement, putting up 13 at one point, putting up 8 at another point. Where do you think this series is going?
Well, I know it's quite literally going back to Toronto, but what's really been funny about this series is, we were joking about it, Keegan and I yesterday, this adage of like a playoff series doesn't start till the home team loses, right? Well, we've had the reverse in this series where Toronto loses 2 at home, one of those in blowout fashion, goes to Seattle and blows doors off the Mariners twice. So now we have a best of 3. And I don't know where the heck it's going. I don't have a clue because everything that I feel like I knew about this series going in has just been proven dead. Max Scherzer, hadn't pitched in 3 weeks. The 3-time Cy Young winner, future Hall of Famer, champ, all this stuff, was very solid last night for Toronto, whereas Luis Castillo, who hadn't allowed more than 1 run in a singular start in 6 weeks, goes out and has an immediate dud. And so the offenses have obviously woken up. Toronto, more recently, I think Seattle's going to do the same. The offense is too good for it not to, and it's a fascinating series. But Vlad Guerrero Jr. is looking like a guy who can't be stopped right now.
Absolutely. I think we're just appreciating being able to see like a quality series because pivot over to what else is going on in MLB right now. You got the Dodgers continuing to dominate. The Dodgers take a 3-0 series lead in the NLCS. And I mean, look, this is just one of those things where as much as you were rooting for the Brewers to do something different, for fate to just change in their name, it is not taking place. Yeah,
like Thanos, the Dodgers are inevitable. It's over. I'm sorry, Milwaukee. It's over. It's not going to happen for you. I mean, Tyler Glasnow was,
R.I.P. former Ray.
I know. Solid 5 2/3, 1 run. The biggest thing is that the Brewers' offense, we're talking about all these offensive achievements for Seattle, for Toronto. The Brewers' offense has scored 1 run in each of these 3 games. It has 9 total hits in 3 playoff games.
Yeah.
Just to give you some perspective, there is 9 hits is tied for the fewest through 3 games of a series in postseason history. You need to go back to one of the 1906 Chicago teams to match that. So obscene. And by the way, 3-0, only one team we know well around here has come back from down 3-0 in a playoff series, and Milwaukee ain't going to be next.
Well, Milwaukee might be going on vacation, so we already got a kind of foresight of where the World Series might be going, but where we are going is over to Nesson Nation right now. The party does not stop here. Make sure you continue to hang with us on Boston Has Entered the Chat. Let us know your thoughts at 617-790-0928. We'll see you on Nesson Nation.